everyone, welcome back to another reading vlog. If you're new here, my name is Tonya and I like to share all kinds of bookish content on my channel, from reading vlogs to TBR videos or book recommendations, bookish hauls, all the book things. And I do mostly read fantasy books. I sprinkle in some other genres as well. So in this week's vlog, we are kind of tiptoeing into fall, and both the books that we are planning to read in this vlog are vampire books. Even though it's August, I am super ready for fall, so I thought, why not? I had these two books on my TBR, so thought it'd be fun to go ahead and read them in a vlog with you. The first one is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and I am about a quarter of the way through currently, and liking it so far. I will say, up until the first 100 pages, I was not so sure how I was going to like it. I haven't read any other V.E. Schwab books. This is my first one. And the writing itself was good, but the story wasn't really pulling me in much in that beginning part. But now that I get a little further in, I am... there went my bookmark. I am on page 192 currently. So it's really starting to pick up at this point. If you're not familiar with the book, we're following three different vampires. And they, of course, these three women did not start off as vampires. We're kind of learning about their journey and how they were turned as we go. But we're following Maria, Lottie, and Alice. And Maria's story picks up in Santo Domingo in the 1500s. And then Alice's story is more current day. And then our third vampire, Lottie, we actually haven't got a lot of interaction with her at this point. So I don't completely know her story yet, but I am sure we will get to know her better as we go. But yeah, been enjoying it so far. Now that it's picking up a little bit more, we're still kind of on the backstory right at the beginning of the time when they were turned, at least for Maria and for Alice. So we will see how, things kind of progress. I can already tell Maria has a lot of feminine rage. So she is probably going to be the most dramatic of the three. At least that is kind of my take on it. And Alice, who is our modern day vampire, she kind of is at the point where she's just trying to dissect what happens. And then, like I said, Lottie, we haven't learned much about yet. That's kind of just where I am in this book. The second book that I plan to read in this reading vlog is We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. It's not out yet. It comes out, I believe, in October, but I have an e-arc for that one. So thought it would be fun to read my two vampire books together. So yeah, that's kind of the plan for this vlog. I'm going to go ahead and get changed and take Luna, wherever she is behind me, for a walk, and then I'll check back in with you once I have another update. Alright guys, so it is now Tuesday and I just got off work, so I thought it would be a good time to give you a little reading update. But before we do that, I thought I would share my Book of the Month box that I just got. Now, if you're not familiar with Book of the Month, it's a book subscription service, and it really does end up saving you money if you're someone who usually buys at least a book a month. Just because the price is lower. But let me show you what I got. And I will also say, like, this month I got two books because there wasn't anything in July that I wanted. So I just rolled my credit over to August, and then I ended up getting 2 books in August. So you can definitely do that. They let you skip months too, but what I usually end up doing is if there's not a book that I want to select for a certain month, I just let the credit roll over, and then another month I get more than 1 book. That's kind of how I like to handle it. And this, of course, is not sponsored, but I do have a referral link down below in the description box. If you want to give Book of the Month a try, it gets you your first book for $5, I believe, and then I get a credit towards the book. So it's a win-win. But I've really enjoyed it and wanted to share. So the book I actually picked out was Immortal Consequences, and that is by Ivy Marie, and it's a really pretty edition. Sometimes the Book of the Month editions are like deluxe or the special editions with the sprayed edges, and sometimes it's just like a standard paperback, but this month it did have the sprayed edges, and I thought this book looked really good. I like how the premise sounds in it. It is in an academy setting, and I love me a good school setting. Plus it has trials, also a bonus. So I'll read you the little blurb from the front cover. Welcome to Blackwood Academy, the legendary school located on the fringes of the afterlife. Once a pupil enters the academy's arch gates, there is no way out, except for the decennial, a once-in-a-decade celebration in which a single worthy student is tested and given a choice: graduate and join Blackwood's magical elite, or cross over to the mysterious other side. This time, though, the rules have changed. The decennials isn't a celebration, it's a competition, and there can only be one victor. So yeah, thought that sounded really good. The afterlife piece of it is kind of unique and something interesting, so looking forward to reading that one. And then, where did I put it? The second book I picked up was Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher, and I haven't read any of T. Kingfisher's books before, but this one is a Snow White retelling, and I thought that sounded really good, so picked that one up as well. But yeah, that's kind of my little Book of the Month haul. And then, as far as Barrier Bones on the Midnight Soil, I did get a good more chunk read last night, so now I am up to, what page is this? 309, so just about 3/4 of the way through the book, and the more I've read it, the more I've been enjoying it. But yeah, I wasn't really sure how much I was actually gonna like it during that first kind of 70 pages, but it's really picked up since then. You know, we have our 3 different vampires that we're kind of following, and still up until this point, it's mainly been about Maria, who is our first vampire from back in like 1532, and then Alice, who was our modern day one, and we've only heard a little bit and met Lottie for a small portion of the book, but we've kind of now come to the point where the 3 are gonna converge, and we're gonna, I think, get a lot more about Lottie's story, plus continue on with Maria and Alice and see how they all kind of intertwine. And I've really enjoyed the writing style now that we are kind of into the meat of the book. I wouldn't say that it's like anything that's like overly descriptive or anything like that, but it is, it does paint a very good picture of the surroundings without being over the top. So I've liked that aspect. It is written in a way where it's detailed enough for you kind of envision the scene and get a feel for the characters and their emotions that have been going on. So far enjoying V.E. Schwab's writing. Like I said, this is her first book that I have read, but I think it's also an interesting point to say that when you hear the kind of hype on this book, It talks about how it's about 3 lesbian vampires, and it is indeed about 3 lesbian vampires, but I wouldn't say their sexuality is like the biggest storyline in the book. I think it's more the story of how they turned and, you know, their journey of going from being a mortal to basically an immortal, and someone who is essentially dead but, you know, still carrying on for all these years in their body and growing, and, you know, their personalities and morality changing. I think that's the bigger part of it. Yes, they are all 3 lesbians, but I don't even think that's like a big part of the story. It's just a part of who they are. Sorry if the angle looks off now. My battery decided to die right at the end of that update, so not exactly sure where I left off, so that was kind of rude of my camera battery, but whatever. So yeah, basically that is the update for now. I'm going to continue reading tonight. I don't know that I'll finish it. I guess we'll kind of have to see how much reading I actually get in, whether I finish it tonight or tomorrow, but looking forward to the last bit of the book. I am sure things are going to pick up, and I kind of feel like a female rage moment may be coming from one of our vampires, so we shall see if that is actually the case. But yeah, we'll come back at you once I have another reading update. Alright, so it is now Wednesday, and I did end up, even though I said I probably wouldn't, finishing Bury Your Bones in the Midnight Soil last night, and I definitely have some thoughts on it. But before we kind of talk about that, I got some bookish merch mail that I thought we could open together. So, first, I got this Fireheart t-shirt because you know I am a Throne of Glass girly. So yeah, I thought that was super cute, something that I could easily wear year round. And then, since the holidays are coming, I got this. All booked for a Christmas t-shirt, and I'll have the shop I got these from linked down below in the description box. But yeah, most of the time I'm more of a t-shirt kind of girl than a sweatshirt. It's usually a t-shirt and a zip-up jacket. I have some sweatshirts, but I don't know. I like the option of layers. So can't wait to wear those. And then let's talk about To Bury Our Bones. So, like I said, I did finish the book, and it was good. I'm giving it 4 stars. I will say, for the amount of hype that this book has gotten, I don't know that it was that good. So, kind of where I'm coming from on this is V.E. Schwab's writing. It was really good. It wasn't something that seemed overdone. It was still descriptive and kind of put you in the scene and put you in the character. But this is definitely more of a character study kind of book. I mean, there's a plot, but the plot is more secondary than the stories of our 3 vampires that are in here. And as I had mentioned earlier, they are 3 lesbian vampires, but I felt like that portion was portrayed really well, because even though it did touch on how sometimes there can be some discrimination and things like that, it wasn't necessarily the overlying theme of the book. It was just more a part of who these 3 women were, which that part I did really enjoy because, you know, it is something where you should be able to be whoever you would like to be, and you should be able to love whoever you would like to love, and that should all be normalized. So I did like that, or as normalized as it can be for a vampire. Because, you know, that does add a little bit of a different element to it. But overall, as far as a character, it's just a normal part of who they are. So I did like that. What I wasn't a super huge fan of is the plot itself. The plot was, I don't know, in my opinion, it was very lacking. There wasn't a lot of substance to it. Really, I mean, I guess every story needs some sort of plot, but I don't think the plot was even really necessary for this book. The way that the plot came into play is more because this was more of a character-driven book. It was more a study in humanity, morality, you know, grief, love, how people use one another, being your true self. That was more of it than there being this underlying plot. I was actually, like, when we got to what was supposed to be the, like, big reveal or the big resolution of the plot, I was disappointed in that part. It wasn't really, I think, well thought out or well described. It was more of an afterthought to this character study, in my opinion. So, that being said, this was not a bad book by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, I'm giving it 4 stars. I just don't know if it was this big of a thing as it was presented to be. I feel like a lot of the hype for this book was maybe even in the wrong places. If I was going to be hyping this book up, I would, you know, market it as more of a character study, a look at humanity and, you know, the different facets of that, and how that can change over time and over a person's lifespan. That's more where I think this book shined, rather than the fact that, you know, it was lesbian vampires or, you know, that it had this great plot or something like that. I think it was more in the study of the characters. So that's kind of my 2 cents on this. Yeah, like I said, it's not a bad book. I just don't think it was this be-all, end-all. You're seeing all these 5-star reviews, and I didn't even get any feeling like that from it. As I'd mentioned, the first 70 pages, I was a little bit bored. It took getting into the meat of the story a little bit more to kind of get that understanding of, you know, the way the book was going to develop. But yeah, so now that I have finished this one, we're going to move on to my next book. So my next book that I'm going to be reading in this vlog is We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. And I think in the, like, my intro, I said that I thought it comes out in October, which to me would have been perfect because it would have been around Halloween and there are vampires in this book. That is not when it comes out at all. It looks like it actually comes out in December, so I am reading it a little bit early. But I love Stasia Stark's writing. She is a banter queen, so I am hoping that this book holds that banter that I feel like she is so famous for. So we got a little while before its release, but I can at least give you an opinion on whether you should pick it up once it does come out. And this is, like I said, there are vampires in it, but it's more, I would say, not, because it's not set in this world, so it's not like a traditional Halloween kind of vampire. It's more like a, I guess you would say, like a Quicksilver kind of vampire. I mean, the storyline's totally different, but, you know, it's more just they're another being of this particular realm. And just to give you a little idea about what it's about. Okay. Life in the perilous Thorn District is a constant battle for Arvel and her younger brothers, and the vampire standing on her doorstep is about to turn their world upside down. Faced with an unthinkable choice, Arvel makes a magical binding vow to do the impossible, kill the Emperor, an ancient vampire created by the god Umbros. But first, she must enter the Sundering, an arena where only the fastest, strongest, and deadliest survive long enough to be selected for the Emperor's elite guard. She quickly draws the attention of the Primus, the powerful figure charged with protecting the Emperor, but the vampire under the armor is the last person Arvel expects to encounter in the Emperor's court. So it is a romantasy. We do have the vampire element, and I have actually started this one, and there's also like a sigil magic that people can have, and basically you're born with a sign on your forehead and it grows as you get older, and as it grows, that's kind of how your magic comes out, and when you come of age you're able to use your magic. And some people are more powerful than others, and some people don't have marks at all. But for the human portion, that's kind of how the magic system works. And then there's vampires as well. I'm pretty early on in the book, but from what I've read so far, I've really enjoyed it. So I'll definitely have more updates to give you once I get a little further into the book. But that's basically my update for now. I'm going to go get changed after my work day, which today was my last day in the office for the week. I do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the office, Thursday, Friday at home. So Wednesday evening is always a relief for me because I know I get to work from home in my comfy clothes the next day. But gonna get changed, try to take Luna on a walk if it doesn't downpour, which is questionable. And then I will catch back up with you when I have another reading update. So I am about 18% of the way into We Who Will Die, and liking it so far. The beginning part has just been a lot of backstory. We're kind of just getting to know Arvel, which I'm probably saying that wrong, as you know, and her past and kind of what makes her tick. She lives in the poorer part of the city with her brothers. It sounds like her mother's out of the picture, maybe had some sort of like drug problem or something like that, and she's been raising her twin brothers on her own for a while. One of them's pretty sick with some sort of lung disease from a like I think a mine collapse. I can't remember for sure, but I think that's what it was. And so he's in need of treatment to survive, basically. They've been kind of trying to stave off his illness with some different tonics and things, but he really needs treatment from a healer. And Arvel's been working as a bodyguard for the last few years. She was once like a champion fighter, and something bad happened in this championship called the Sands that she was in. I know that her best friend died during it, and then whatever came from that, she ended up winning, but obviously was scarred from her best friend's death. And then we do know that she had a love interest at one point named Ty, who left her. So she's kind of just been in this state of surviving for the last like 6 years, taking care of her brothers, trying to work through her own emotions, or not work through them is probably a better way to put it. And all this being said, she gets approached by this vampire named Braun, and he basically forces her in this competition to make it into the Emperor's guard. And then once she's in his guard, then she's supposed to kill the Emperor. And if she does this, then Braun has agreed to get her brother to a healer and get him the treatment that he needs, and help them move kind of out of the city to a safer place. He ends up going into this competition to become part of the guard, and it's been a very long time since she's done any sort of serious training, and she's kind of an underdog. And she ends up, there's a Primus, which is like the head of the Emperor's Guard, who has just, for whatever reason, decided that he doesn't think she should be there. Of course, Arvel is not willing to leave because she needs to get her brother healed. So this Primus is kind of, trying to force her into leaving. Plus she has the pressure of, her brother and his health, and then just trying to survive this competition to become a guard. So that's kind of where we are right now. We're just at like the beginning stages of her entering into this competition. And like I said, so far it's been pretty good. I like the sound of the magic system, or from at least what I've seen of it so far, this sigil-based kind of magic system. And of course, the vampires have like a lot of them have like superhuman strength, so they definitely have the advantage. But some of the people with the sigil power are pretty strong in their own right too. So I'm interested to see how that kind of develops throughout the book. And we're just getting a little bit into the banter that Stasia Stark does so well in between Vel and the Primus, who, they're starting to have a little bit of back and forth there. I have my suspicions about who the Primus is, so we'll see if those are correct. And yeah, I'm going to read a little bit more tonight, and then I'll probably check back in with you in the morning with an update. Hey guys, I am back with another reading update. So I am about 50% of the way through We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark, and I'm really enjoying it. We're kind of getting into the meat of the story at this point, and I really like kind of the world that Stasia Stark has set up here, from, the mundanes who are humans without magic, to the sigil-born who have their magic kind of marks on their forehead at different strengths. And then the vampires that are kind of the ruling party right now. So their dynamic has been really interesting. And so far, the trials that our main character, Arvel, have had to go through have been really good. Not too long, but still unique enough to keep your attention. And her dynamic with one of the main male characters, the banter back and forth there has been really good, and you can feel their connection. It is kind of slow burn right now. And then there's also an additional character named Rorik, who is the Emperor's son, who we don't really know what role he's playing right now, but I've enjoyed the dynamic in between him and Arvel as well. I don't think he's going to be a love interest, but he definitely has a part to play. So really enjoying it. Hopefully I will get this finished today. I will be back later to give you another reading update. Alright guys, so I am back with my final reading update because I did finish We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark last night. And I will say overall I really liked it. I would be at like a 3.75 to a 4. Really good book. A little bit of spice, but there wasn't a ton of it. And I always enjoy Stasia Stark's writing, the way she does interactions with her characters, and this was a pretty unique world. I will say there was kind of some, and this is like an advanced reader copy, so there was a few like kind of grammar issues, but that's to be expected. And I felt like there was some places where the plot maybe could be a little more defined, or some of the points didn't make like 100% sense for the situation. But this doesn't come out until December, so maybe that's going to get flushed out a little bit more in the next coming months before it's actually published. But that's why I was at like maybe a 3.75. instead of like a 4, 4.25, is I felt like there was just a couple of inconsistencies plot-wise. Now I will say this may end up being like a love triangle. I am not 100% sure. I don't know how many books there's going to be, but based on the ending of this one, there's definitely going to be more books. A lot got resolved, but a lot didn't get resolved, so there will definitely be additional books. But I would say if you like Stasia Stark's writing, definitely pick this one when it comes out in December. I wouldn't expect that it's going to be like a 5-star blockbuster read for you, but still really enjoyable. I read it in a couple of days, so really quick read. So would still recommend picking up. And then that will be it for today's vlog. We finished our 2 books, Bury Our Bones and The Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, and as we just talked, We Who Will Die by Stasia Stark. Very different vampire books, completely different ends of the spectrum, but still both really enjoyable. And it was nice to get a little vampire taste as we're heading into fall. So definitely let me know down below if you plan on reading either of these 2 books at any point in the future, or if you have any kind of fall reads that you're super excited about. Take care, keep reading, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.